Everybody, it is welcome to Get Valiant. It is another awesome show coming your way. What's up?
Episode number 141, and we are just rolling with the special guest. This is amazing. We had Dinesh, and now we have an awesome current Valiant employee hanging out with us, Robert Meyers.
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
Oh, well, apparently I'm the idiot that has my phone on. Yeah, doing great. Other than that,
We are good, man. We're happy to have you on and talk about Valiant and what TV shows you're watching right now.
Awesome, yeah, man. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite. This should be fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And the live chat right now is
So-
going crazy already, so everybody's happy to have you on here.
Oh, cool. Hey,
Yeah.
everybody.
So I'd like to start out just asking about how you got into Valiant, whether you were a fan first, started working for the company first, and just, what's your history with that?
Sure, yeah. Origin stories are always fun. So I've been a Valiant fan since the 90s. I worked at a comic shop when I was a teenager. I was one of the two kids in the store who was pushing Valiant hard. I was the guy when people were buying Superman 75. I was like, dude, you got to get Bloodshot #1. Back then, Archer and Armstrong, Eternal Warrior, Shadow Man were my favorites. They're still kind of my favorites. So that's where it started for me. Then fast forward a few years. We won't count how many, but I was in New York for grad school, and I got an internship at my school. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a thing to do. And I saw Valiant, and I had no idea that the company was back. This was December of 2012. So when I moved to New York, the first appointment I had was an interview for an internship. And 6-7 months later, I was full-time. I came on board as the operations coordinator, which was I was kind of a jack of all trades. I did a little with sales, a lot with operation stuff, of course, a little bit with editorial. And here we are 7 years later, and I'm running the editorial department. And there's a little hiatus in the middle. I left Valiant for about a year and a half. I was finishing school, and I just needed to focus on school, so I took this terrible marketing job somewhere so I could finish my thesis. And because I was like, if I'm at Valiant, I'm there. That's all I'm doing, right? So I had a great conversation with the whole team, went out, finished my degree, got recruited by Bill Jemis to go set up Double Take, the comic imprint that was at Take-Two. Did that for a year, a little over a year, and had a kind of random conversation with and then with Dinesh, and I was leaving Double Take, and my plan was honestly to take a summer off. Part of my graduate degree is in media studies. I'd made a documentary film, so I was going to go shoot another film, and Dinesh said, come back to work. So I did. So I came back in 2016 as managing editor, and just kind of leveled up as we've gone along.
Awesome.
So it's a little of being a fan. It's like I said, roots are in the retail side, but I've always had a creative dream. So I get to do a little of both now.
That's awesome. And what are the oh man, I don't know how to word the question. Who's your take us forward? What are we doing?
Yeah, when your first part, what's been one of the big highlights that stands out for you from working with that original crew, 2013 when you started, kind of?
Oh, there's so many, man. Good first New York Comic Con in 2013 was amazing. I had been to a few shows. I grew up in a really small town, so we didn't have Comic Cons, but I used to drive up to Oakland for WonderCon, and then would go to San Diego, every year. But there was no in between. And then I did have a dry period. I was in the desert for a while where I wasn't really reading comics anymore. I just wasn't I couldn't afford it, to be perfectly honest. And it was one of those things I had to sacrifice.
Do you mean you didn't
Still,
pirate it like everybody else does when they can't
no,
afford it? Okay.
I borrowed when I
Okay.
could from friends who still read, and I kept up. Like I would read CBR every day,
Yeah.
I would read Lean Cool every day, but I wasn't reading
Yeah.
comics every day. So I think going to New York Comic Con that first year was insane. Being one of the most fun things. This is random, but we launched Armor Hunters. I was running social media at that point, so at that moment, it was like our busiest social media day. So that was really fun.
That's cool.
So it was like I got to be part of the planning process of it. All under Hunter's stern supervision, but that was a fun day. And then moving forward, I was a big part of the team for. I was the assistant editor on EXO in 17 with Matt's when was kicking off Matt's run. So closely with Warren, working closely with Tomas Giorello and of course Matt Kent was. And then now I get to help guide the whole universe. I get to help publishing. I've got an amazing team that I work with, both Fred, Matthew, Stern, as well as my editorial team.
Yep. One of the cool things that I know that we've talked about is you were one of the guys responsible of New Comic Book Day 5 years ago leaking Psylords, and now you're the guy kind of there helping Psylords get out there now. So
Yeah.
how does it feel kind of going from there to now to where you're the one, kind of guiding the ship?
It's awesome. It's an honor. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes you have to sit back and be like, oh shit, we're doing this. This is happening. I have my dream job, or at least if you picked like 4 dream jobs, this is probably 2 of them. So it's awesome. Like I was the person when we were building those teasers for the Free Comic Book Day. Psylords was one of the ones that I helped build that teaser, working with the incredible Ryan Hughes, who really did all the work on it. We just threw up some ideas, and then now, helping to conceive the whole book and working with Fred and David Minchell, our associate editor, has been the point person on that book, and he and Fred and Renato have crafted a really fun story, I think.
Right. And you were kind of thrown into an interesting situation. Let's call it what it is, right? With the old Valiant leaving, and then with the editor before you was leaving as well, with Illage leaving, Joe. Mm-hmm. And you kind of had some weird things that came out. Tell us about moving into what we're seeing this year, KI6, Livewire. Tell us about what you saw in 2019, what you liked and didn't like about it.
Well, it's a great question. It's there are issues, there are moments in stories that I wish we had done differently, or things that we could have done better. I'm always trying to figure out ways to do better. Years ago, I worked for Apple, and you can't work at Apple without constantly trying to find the flaw in something and find a way to do it better next time. So that's a big piece of just how I operate in general. 2019 for us was really about putting some new tools on the board, or new pieces on the board, getting some new properties up and running, while on the background building the icon characters, building our flagship characters to take 2020 by storm. So we had a lot of fun with things like Forgotten Queen, which was kind of an off-brand book for us, but it was a lot of fun to put it on. Team was incredible on that book. Seeing Livewire go from what was supposed to be a miniseries to a 12-issue run was fun. I think we've done a lot of fun books this year. Psylords KI6, I thought was actually like kind of a surprise sleeper hit for us. I think one of my 2 favorite things are probably Punk Mambo and Dr. Mirage. I think Dr. Mirage is actually one of the better books of the last year, not just Valiant, but us. I think it's up there with Mags' best work, if not some of her best work. And seeing Nick Nova's level up issue to issue. I'm not sure if you guys have seen issue 5 yet, but it's incredible. The visuals are just gorgeous. So I think it's been a fun year for us to experiment. Not everything's hit, and we're always looking at ways to do it different, better this time. But yeah, those are sort of the highlights, and I guess I don't want to call it any specific lowlights, but there are moments, I wish we could have done a little better, a little different. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Fallen World as well. I think that one was fun. I want to see that thing as an animated series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one question I have coming out of this is, Valiant's fan base is really kind of rabid sometimes. They really love the old characters. Is it difficult to sit on information where that 2020 is going to have a big return to all these classic characters, but in 2019 unconventional stuff, you're giving like B-list characters the spotlight? Is it a little bit difficult at times?
I wouldn't say difficult. It's challenging. We want to make sure our core fan base is enjoying the books. We want to make sure we're giving, everybody something. But I also am very cognizant of the fact that, we need to get more eyeballs on our books. We need more people reading. And I want to make books that even if they're not our core line, they're not, the four big characters month in, month out. There's something that you could say, damn, this is a good book, and give it to someone. It may not be, we can't make it, not every single book can be for every single person, but I'd like to have 6 books a month that are for at least 6 different people. If not, everybody's reading 2 or 3 of them. So it's a challenge. I don't think it's difficult because I like that challenge. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to try to find ways to take some of those B-level characters and elevate them to really make them a rising star.
Yeah. One thing I didn't see this year as much is the continuity within the stories, the little Easter eggs from one story to another, which helps spread the books, helps spread readers to get to more books. Do we see that coming with the more ongoings that are coming?
Yes. So, we're actively circling back to a piece of that was from the internal side. I feel like we got a little too continuity heavy. The books were getting it was a little hard to just pick up something new because we're always, I go to 10, 15 shows a year, and we still run into people, 3 years into the same city or whatnot, like, oh gosh, I read Valiant back in the day. I know you guys were back. So I need to have something that I can hand them that's a jumping on point, right? And I also need to find those new fans, someone who's just walking by and sees one of the awesome banners and goes, what's that? I want to read it. I need to be able to have an easy access point, while also weaving in that rich fabric of the universe, which is it's something that's very much on our minds. It's something we're working on and doing in ways that get the best of both worlds.
So do you think that you're going to lose the focus at all on... I know everybody wants those core characters back.
Sure.
Everybody wants those core characters back. But I think that things like Killers, Chaos 6, show us exactly how awesome it can be to take what could definitely be considered B or C list characters and put them in the spotlight. Do you see room for that as we move forward, or do you think that the focus now as we go into 2020 is more specifically on those core longtime characters?
It's going to be a really nice balance, to be honest. We found a way this coming year that we can, we know we do from day one. This has been a very data-driven company. We do a lot of research. We do a ton of market research. We do a ton of punching. And we look at the places where we know we can launch big. And those are the spots where we want to put our prime books. And when those books hit, then we have opportunity to do a smaller book. We don't need every single book to be a home run, but we need a few a year. But I just want to get if we can get 4 home runs and everybody else gets on base, that's a good game, right?
Yeah,
Right?
I like that analogy.
Going a long way for a baseball analogy. Apologies.
But we all remember Babe Ruth, and he went for the fences all the time, though, even though he struck out a lot. But that's who we remember. So
It's true.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be a 5 tools player than just a slug.
okay, we'll deal with Ted Williams then. Let's get on base all the time.
So-
Good batting it.
Yeah, but 2020, you're going to see the core characters back on the board in some really exciting ways, and we've got a ton of new stuff in the works.
Yeah.
I actually sat down. We're doing a bunch of 2020 logistics planning right now, and I've got a full slate of titles that will be ready to go by midpoint of the year.
What are they?
Huh?
What give us the list.
You cut out. It's a fun mix of stuff. I'm not going to give it all away, but there's you name the character, I've got to work. It's something's in the works. Let me rephrase that. Most of the characters, something's in the works, and we've got some surprising new things that I think are really gonna excite people.
All right, Betamax is returning. Yes, bad eggs. Elliot Rahal has bad eggs. I know he's got one ready for you. You've probably seen it. He's got one. So shout out to Elliot. Oh, Elliot's got a he's got a pitch for bad eggs. So whenever we need a terrible book.
Well, you hope it's not terrible.
Right?
Jeez.
And we saw some successes really with this year with Fallen World. We all liked it. Killers we liked a lot. And now this Ryan that's going with Dan Abnett, who we all enjoy a lot on this show.
Yeah.
And then we're liking what Tim's doing with Bloodshot. So some great stuff coming. And I wanted to talk about this Bloodshot Zero that's coming that was solicited recently. And is this going to be a new origin again for Bloodshot, or kind of what kind of is that?
Strategically, it's coming out the same month as, I don't know, this little movie we've got in the works.
Okay.
So it's an access point for someone who's seen the movie, goes to a comic book shop and says, "What do I read?" So we've structured our publishing plan for Bloodshot specifically for that. That's where we've got the definitive edition, we've got the omnibus, we've got Tim and trade, and then we've got Bloodshot Zero. So you've read Bloodshot #1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how he's just under that truck?
Right.
Yeah.
Bloodshot Zero is sort of how he got there.
Okay.
So it's
so between Salvation and there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a full bridge of that gap, but it gets you up to speed a bit.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
do you see the movie impacting the comic continuity at all? Do you feel any pressure to tie the comics into the movie, or how does that dynamic work for you moving forward with the Bloodshot series?
No, but so no in the sense of we're not changing the continuity based on film. But we certainly want something that's tonally similar. We want something that is not too jarring, not too different than what is in the film. But I think people are pretty excited. Like, what you get in the movie and what you get in a comic are going to be different. One of the nice things with comics is we don't have budgets. We can do whatever we want on those pages. We don't have to worry about the effects budget. So a little bigger, we can get a little crazy. So we want something that's accessible, that's not too far off the mark, but it's still a comic book. It still doesn't lose that magic that we get to play with in comics.
Do you ever foresee the movie, or movies in general, shows that may come, kind of changing the characters a little bit, i.e. Bloodshot being bald down the road and looking more like Vin Diesel, if that's something that kind of happens?
I couldn't say it's certainly not happening right now. If there's a great idea or there's a great look for something in one of the films or shows that we're like, damn, let's do that. Sure, if it makes sense. But with us, and if you've been to a panel at a con, I say this every time. It's story and character first. It's whatever tells the best story and whatever comes out of that organically. We're not going to shoehorn something in just to capitalize on it. We want the books to stand alone, and that's our publishing line is the core of the business. So that's how we look at it.
So I guess a question there, like you said, the publishing line is the core of the business. There's a lot of speculation, and I don't know if we have a lot of clarity on what the relationship is like between DMG and Valiant. Is it essentially one entity? Is there a wall between them? Can you give us any insight into that?
It's been great. From day one, they've said, you guys are the best at what you do. Keep doing it. So that's been it. They ask us for input on what's going on. I'm in contact with one of the creative directors over there, getting him up to spin on sort of what we're doing this year, so they can be like, oh, this is going to be cool. We can take this somewhere and pitch it. So it's really, we're feeding them more than they're directing us. As far as day-to-day operations, we're nothing's really changed on our end. There's some really boring shit has changed that I don't need to go into. Like the payroll company changed, right?
The fun stuff. HR. Yeah. Gotta love HR.
Exactly. I get an email instead of a check or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But nothing. It's really been very, very smooth and very, very hands off. Really.
Good.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask on this, but I've seen a little bit of chatter for the last couple of months with fans who missed the days of variance with Valiant. How Valiant used to do like a 1 in a 10, 1 in 20, 150, ratio variance. Sure. And right now the company is just kind of going with A, B, C, D, blank pre-order edition. What are your thoughts on that? Seen better success as a company as a whole eliminating ratio variance, or is it one of those things where it's just something that's being tried? What's going on with that?
Honestly, we listen to our retail partners. It's most of those things are closed door, but one of the things that they say month in, month out meeting, every time we go to a diamond meeting or a pro, is they're tired of variants. Now, they'll still order them, of course, because they do work in some situations. So we're being more strategic with how we're doing them. Going back to the data side of things, we're doing. We do deep dive analysis on that stuff, and when things work to a point, and then there's diminishing returns, so it's time to change it. So we're changing it, and we're using the variance more strategically. We're doing some other things to kind of balance the retail side as well. I love the idea of, I'm an old collector. I've got, 8 long boxes in that closet back there. And if anybody's in San Diego this year, we can go to my, where my collection actually lives. Cause I'm a good old fashioned comic nerd. I love chasing those variants down. I still do it when I go to shows. I've always got 1 or 2 things I'm on the hunt for. Right. But if they're not working, it's just spinning your wheels. So we're doing things different to find things that work and things that are more sustainable.
All right.
And I got a question. This could be, I'm gonna kind of go with it. So one of the things that had frustrated me about Valiant was Bloodshot Rising Spirit. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you got my 12 issue or 8 issue, it was 8 issue, my 8 issue pre-order. And then before number 1 came out, the writers had already changed. And then there was a bunch of changes there. What are you doing to prevent that from happening going in the future?
Sure. I mean, some things, some things are going to miss, and there are going to we're going to make mistakes. Bloodshot Rising Spirit is an unfortunate example of internally us making a mistake. Nothing but praise for everybody who worked on that book on the creator side. Zach and Lonnie, Elliot, Ken, Kevin Grievous, everybody who worked on that book really put their heart and soul into it. The mistakes there were on us. So how are we trying to do things so that doesn't happen again? We are internally, and I'm not going to get too far in the weeds on it, but we're looking at projects differently. We're building projects differently inside. Our development process has changed a bit. One of my goals, when I took lead in the department, was to get us ahead. So Rye number 1 just came out. Juan Jose Rip is just about finished with Rye number 7 right now. So we're working ahead. We're getting things in the can before we solicit, so that things like Rising Spirit don't happen.
Right.
Yeah, and that was an experience for all of us. There's 1 or 2 things. There's hiccups. There's going to be growing pains, and unfortunately, that book was one. I think Elliot really did a nice job for us bringing it home.
Yes.
And I think it gave Tim enough runway to launch the new Bloodshot in a really big, widescreen way.
Awesome. And
Was that so? One thing that a lot of people have been concerned about is that we got a solicit saying Exo Manowar was coming, and then it didn't happen. And well, we didn't get a solicit saying it was coming. We got some teasers saying it was coming. So I misspoke there. But so we got some teasers, and then it didn't happen. So was the learning experience from Bloodshot Rising Spirit part of that decision, and then the biggest part of this, I think that a lot of fans want to know is, when can we expect an update, and when will we know what's going on?
Absolutely. So it's a great question. So it actually, in essence, no, it's not related to that. It's actually a really nice organic thing. Fallen World did really well for us. People loved it, and I had Rye and Exo Manowar ready to go. We looked at how Fallen World did, and we didn't want to wait 6 months until the end of it to put the number one out. We wanted to feed that hunger sooner. Second, we went back and we looked at all the places for us to launch a book best. Where do you put your biggest, Exo's our flagship, right? Exo and Bloodshot are our flagship titles. We've got the movie in February. We've got the start of convention season in February, starting with Comics Pro. So we moved Exo to March to take advantage of all of those things. Now, do I wish we'd put the teaser out without a date? Yes. But did anything go wrong on the book? No. The book is the page that I know you're going to show here at some point. If it's not already on screen, I don't know what's on the screen.
Not yet, but we'll have one of the first images there as well. Yeah.
So the book that's coming in March is the exact book that we teased for November. We just made a strategic decision. Rye had heat coming out of Fallen World. I did have more issues in the can on that one, so it was, that was a thing where it was an easy pick to pivot those two, and it allows us to take advantage of three of the biggest events that were going to happen in the first half of 2020 to launch Exo.
Awesome.
And how many issues ahead are you right now with Exo then? Like, how many of those issues are in the can?
Let's see. I think we're working on issue 3 right now. And Dennis is further ahead on script.
Awesome.
All right.
And we're showing that image with Emilio's work, and it is fantastic. So,
Ruth Redmond on colors there. She's an incredible talent.
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
Big. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, a lot of times, we've gotten such amazing artists that when a new artist comes into Valiant, there's that kind of, is this going to be, where we're going to be disappointed because it doesn't live up to the crazy expectations we've had from runs in the past? Or are we going to get another example of, an artist that really takes a book to a new level? And I mean, based on what we've seen so far from this Exo book,
yeah,
I couldn't be more excited. Not only from the line work, but like you said, the colors as well are just phenomenal.
Yeah, and Dennis is telling a really interesting story. One of the things that he does really well is kind of that long story arc, kind of that slow burn, but with a really amazing payoff. And that's kind of what we're building here. And we're building, though, a new Exo. Every iteration we've done of Exo has changed a little. It's pivoted. It's elevated. So they're doing that on this book too. Keeping it fresh, keeping it accessible, but not. It's a natural progression for the character.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Do you see more room? I know one thing that gets me really excited is you saying that slow burn. That's one reason why I loved Venditti's Exo. Not connecting the two just because it's Exo, but I love that he had this long-term run that he was planting seeds 3-4 arcs ahead of time before they would actually come to fruition. So it's exciting to hear that there are long-term plans for Exo. Do you see room for that with other characters where we can see, more than 4-issue runs are great, but do you see those 12, 24, and beyond issue runs?
I mean, I'd love to, yes. Not to. There's two parts to that question. I mean, yes, but because we're small, because we have to stay flexible, there are moments where we're going to put a pin in something so that we can bring something new in, and then bring that character back. So is it certain? Do we go into it with a predetermined? Not normally. The ongoings, we want them to run as long as is necessary. Well, I never want to tell a writer, no, you need to do 10 more issues, even if you don't have any story left. That does everybody a disservice. So we work really closely with our writers and our artists. We work really closely, with kind of the number side to see where the natural resting point is for something. So everything is open-ended, but everything we'll look at it and find a natural spot to bring something home when it's time.
Awesome.
That's fair.
So I'm actually trying to be not political with that answer, but the answer is every project is kind of different, right?
I think that's fair. I think one thing that's been really successful in the past is doing things like the way Divinity was done, right? Mm-hmm. Like you do 4 issues and wait. Rye was done the same way. So I don't think there's anything wrong with stepping away and coming back to a story. So
yeah,
I think
that's the thing we're looking at playing with a little bit more. We've done that a little bit. Those sort of ongoing arcs that are broken up by 6 or 8 months. So you may see us do a little of that.
That sounds amazing.
That's great.
I think that sounds awesome.
Well, and then so we're talking about EXA that's coming, and that's down the way in March that we're hearing now. Next month we got a new book, but a title we've heard about before, The Visitor, by Paul Levitz and MJ Kim, and damn, MJ Kim's work looks great on the preview pages we've got.
Yeah.
Wait till you see issue 2. It's incredible. She's working on issue 3 right now. But yeah. I mean, it's Paul Levitz, right? But Paul said, "Hey guys, he comes to the office frequently. We've had a ton of interns that have come through his class that have worked in the office. Even a couple of employees that were students of his that became interns that came on full time. He and Fred have a long standing, friendship. So he was hanging out one day and he was like, I'd kind of like to write something." And we said yes. That was easy. It's been just so much fun. I mean, he's an old school master storyteller. And getting MJ on the book, who's an up and coming star. Faith Dreamside is one of my favorite things from a couple of years ago. I think Jody really stretched herself kind of stretched her talents on that, and she's just brilliant. And if you go, her personal work is more like kind of crazy manga horror. I encourage people to go find it, but with the warning sign of it's dark. It's beautiful. So one of the things when Paul was writing the script, he said, "I'd love to find somebody local so that we can go and do reference together." MJ lives in New York. Paul lives in New York. So they go out to lunch. They go on photo shoots for photo reference and such. So it's been a ton of fun. It is one of those books. It's hard to talk about the story too much because it is one misstep and I will accidentally ruin the whole thing. But
what book does it lead into? What book does it lead into? What title does it lead into?
Especially you cut out.
Jeez, this mic is horrible. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It's an incredible mystery, like street level procedural mystery with a very surprising and when you get it, you'll get it. High concept sci-fi twist.
Oh, awesome. And hats off on the covers too. Every cover is great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, amazing.
David's been working on those, and he's having a ton of fun. He's getting some great talent on.
Yes, I agree. So can we expect it to tie into other, like the Valiant continuity as a whole, or is this going to be kind of more self-contained story?
No, it's very much a universe story.
Nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Definitely glad to hear that. And then, okay, so this is a little bit off topic, but I need to throw it out there because it's in the live chat and we talk about this all the time.
Sure.
What do you think is the possibility of an anthology book? Something where we can get those characters who've been on the shelf, to get some
question.
regular.
Bless you. Anthology books are one of my favorite things. I love them. I would love to develop them. The cold hard fact is they just don't sell. So when we can get to a spot where we can take that risk, absolutely. It's a fun place where we can do two things. One, I can tell a bunch of stories in a shorter form, and like there's a character we haven't seen in 2 years, let's put him in this anthology. Two, it allows us to do two things with talent. It allows me to get up and coming talent and risk with them. But it also lets us get maybe talent who don't have the schedule space for it, but they can do 3 or 4 pages, right? And we can bring in some bigger names and some people we haven't seen in a while or whatnot in there. So do I want? Absolutely, but do I have to pay attention to the numbers of it? Yeah. So
I guess with that same thing, maybe what about one shots? We haven't seen those in a while.
We haven't seen them in a while, and that was one of those kind of diminishing return things. They worked for a minute for us and they stopped, but we do have a couple actually in the works. I actually have we're going to try something new. We've got a 2-shot in the works.
Perfect. That'll work. And then one that we've actually been talking about a lot, and a lot of us really loved it, is that thick stock on the prestige format. Can we see those coming back?
Sure. I'd love to bring it back when the time is right. We'll see. There's a couple of spots in the pub plan where I think we can do it. Okay. If not this first half of 2020 at the back half. But it's got to make sense. Some of it is just a cost thing, and some of it is it's kind of again that we weren't seeing orders going up when we did it anymore. Okay.
Well,
so we're just like from day one. I mean, this is something. When I was an intern, like my last intern project was a massive. I don't even want to think about exactly what it was, but a massive numbers crunching spreadsheet that like broke Excel. But from that spreadsheet, we got our first big book, which was Unity #1. Like the data that we punched in that gave us all the tools we needed to launch a big book like Unity. So we're still doing all the same kind of analysis all across the board. And so when you see us do things different, there's always a reason behind it.
Nice.
It's good to know.
That is great to know. I know for a fan, I would love to see him again, and many people would as well.
I love it. I love it too. We'll see when the time is right.
Yeah. And then we're looking off in January, and Christopher Hastings and Ryan Brown doing a little Quantum and Woody and Dr. Toilet, or however you pronounce the name properly.
Sir, it's Toilet.
Toilet.
Awesome.
That's amazing. It's
Christopher Hastings is a madman, and Ryan Brown is a crazier madman. This book is so much fun. Like, quite honestly, it's one of the zaniest things we've done with an amazing character-driven heart of the story. One of the things Chris really wants to do is go back to the family aspect of the brothers, and so he's really drilling into that in a really unique and fun way.
Awesome.
So
yeah. And Ryan Brown's a perfect one for that series.
It was natural casting, and timing was perfect. He was wrapping up Curse Words, and which was an incredible book. And his schedule was just have to come open with just the right time. So
awesome.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of success with that approach when Elliot was writing Quantum and Woody for a little bit, and so it's really cool to hear that a similar approach is going to be taken in the new book.
Yeah, it's fun. It's got it's kind of bringing back some of that mad scientist elements from James Asmus's run, with those really fun character driven pieces from Kibblesmith and Ray Hall's run.
awesome.
With Christopher's own amazing sense of humor. I literally did a spit take reading issue 1. Luckily, I didn't spit on my computer, right? But I had to stop, or I almost choked. It's a gem.
Nice.
And
we got
that's exactly Quantum and Woody should be. That's the best endorsement you could give a Quantum and Woody book.
God.
We got Woody cosplayer J. Rob Art in there. He's excited for it. So
Jay, yeah, Jay's one of the best. He's his cosplay is always incredible.
That's right.
Yes.
And then one that looks interesting, and plenty of questions about this one. It is Dr. Tomorrow. Dr. Tomorrow is out and about, so tell us about Dr. Tomorrow and what we can expect from that.
Dr. Tomorrow is I think I've said this to you directly in Portland this year, is it's our most superhero of superhero books we've done. It is one of the things that I want us to bring to the universe, and just as a storyteller want to do is aspirational storytelling. Like let's show big, fun, epic things that we can all kind of build towards, right? Things you could even help people find a different way to do things in their real life, if I can be so grandiose. The book is it's a coming of age story. It's an epic sci-fi story. Alejandro is doing deep dive research into real stuff, and he's building it into the book. So dark matter and negative energy and that kind of thing are all he's using real science shit in there, which is amazing. But we wanted a book. Dr. Tomorrow is just it's a fun character. It's always been one of my favorite titles. And it's one of those things we haven't used yet, so that's always fun. And we wanted to do something we hadn't quite done yet. So I think the book is going to surprise a lot of people. We're putting out the first covers are out there, and I think there's some pages out there. Issue 1 opens with a huge bang. It's a giant universe-wide fight scene, and it moves from there. Jim Toe is an artist I've wanted to work with for a really long time, at least 4 or 5 years, and he and I talk all the time at shows or via email. And when this project came up, I said, Jim, I finally got the book that you'd be perfect for. What's your schedule look like? And he was just wrapping up Spider-Man Daredevil, and one of the, if you've seen the pages, he's leveled up on this book.
Yeah, we got some of the first 6 pages displaying right now.
Cool. Yeah. So Jim's he just sent over, I think, the last batch of layouts for issue 3. And every issue just gets better and better. He did all the character designs. It's been a fun one. It's been a long development process. This book literally started last November. And we, Alejandro and I spent a lot of time diving in and getting the outline just right and the scripts just right before Jim got started. And we're giving Jim all the time in the world to draw, and it shows on the pages. He's just done an incredible job on his end of the storytelling. So it's a big, fun book. But it's also still very much a Valiant book. Alejandro Arbona. He worked with us as an editor for years before going on into his freelance career, and so he knows the universe inside and out. It's funny, not only is he a good friend of mine just outside of working relationship, but as someone who's worked with him as an editor, I trust him, and he trusts me to. So it's been a really great experience, just on the development side and sort of the other side. On the story side, which is really, I'm sure, what you guys care more about. It's a big, fun superhero sci-fi story. There's a couple of twists that I got to be careful with in there. So I don't want to give it away. Some of it, Hoosier, I think, but because we've got a back channel where we talk about Dr. Tomorrow. Right. But when it all comes out, I think you guys are going to love it. I hope. And we've got, Alejandro has a 12-issue arc planned. We're doing 5 issues to start. We've got 5 issue outline ready to go. So
it's kind of a funny story because we were at Portland and Robert showed me some pictures of Dr. Tomorrow. And I didn't know who it was. And he's like, just look at it. And I kid you not, that night I went to a brewery in Portland and I couldn't think of, like, what is this logo? Who is this guy? And I went to a brewery in Portland called Stormbreaker. And I just looked at the pint glass and I was like, no shit. Like, it was kind of just one of those weird, like, the way it lined up was really cool. And awesome. The art of that just looks amazing. And, you know, why now for a superhero? I mean, it's not your typical Valiant cup of tea type of thing. What makes it work now?
Gosh, I think it works now because it's a great story. Not to get too big in my britches, but it's a great story. It's a fun book. We've got a little of everything on the board right now, but the one thing we don't have is something that I can enjoy, that you can enjoy, but that I can also give to a kid. Right? We get kids at the shows all the time, and I want a book that I can give a kid that doesn't sacrifice any of the enjoyment for us. So it's a book. It's not a kid's book, but it's a book that you can give to a kid. Awesome. And then we've also, if it's not everybody's cup of tea, that's okay. I've got one of the darkest things we've ever done coming down the pike. So there'll be some balance. There'll be some good balance. Don't worry.
So will fans of the original Dr. Tomorrow recognize this new character, or is this going to be like a whole new take, or is there a mixture there?
Both. When Bob did the original Dr. Tomorrow, it was very much a homage to the industry and to different eras of storytelling. If I don't know if you guys remember, every issue of that series was a different style, right? So we're not doing that. But we're huge fans of Bob Layton's work in general. He built this company. I had the pleasure of speaking with him at New York Comic Con this year, and he kind of told me what the original meaning of Dr. Tomorrow was going to be. And hearing that, having not heard that story, there's actually pieces of that in our Dr. Tomorrow that are complete accident, complete great kind of a serendipity moment. So it's like many of our things. It's a new take on a classic character, but it's done with reverence to it.
That's awesome. And
good.
Oh, and then I was going to talk about the Braithwaite cover. Great work on making sure Doug got his piece in there, being one of the original creators of it.
Yeah, and Bob's doing a cover as well. There'll be a few others.
Awesome. And I think you talked about a little...
The Rockefeller cover.
Oh, yeah.
They all look good.
Holy
yeah,
that Rockefeller one is just... Mwah.
Yeah, so he'll be doing all the A covers for the whole series.
Oh, sweet.
That's amazing.
So the kind of the covers program is the A cover with Kenneth, and we have some different people on the others, but each issue is going to have Dr. Tomorrow, Bart, and Hadrian, our villain, and then a fourth cover that'll be one or the other. So there'll be a nice mix every month.
That's great.
Yeah, he's working on issue 3 cover right now, and it's badass.
And then I gotta find one of these. So previews. The previews catalog came out with Valiant 2020. We got to see a lot of Valiant 2020 stuff then. And there's also been some little teasers coming out recently. Valiant 2020 with the Harbinger logo on there. What do we know about that yet?
What do you know, or what do I know?
What can you tell us?
Yes.
What can you share with the wider world?
So I can't name any creators yet. It's just too soon for that. I can say that the writer on the book is a diehard Valiant fan, and is giving us a take on Peter Stanchek that we haven't seen before, and a take on the Valiant universe that's going to elevate. It's going to level up big pieces of the whole universe. I'm not being cagey because the back half of the year we shifted a couple of things just in a strategic sense. So it's coming in the back half of 2020.
Okay.
But it could come earlier if we decide it's ready to go. But it's it's in the works. I actually read the first 12 issue outline today in the office. So we'll be chugging away on scripts shortly, and we'll get we'll have more news as we move along.
So we did hear it's going to be an ongoing, at least a 12 issue.
Okay. Yeah, that's the plan.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if that changes, it's just because we decided to do something different. But the plan is for Harbinger to be an ongoing.
Awesome. And then another image we have up there is the Ninjak.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm super excited about it. What do we know? What can we tell? What can we expect? Is it going to connect with Killers?
Yes, in certain ways. I'm not sure if you guys are reading Roku or not, but they'll be. So Lisa Hawkins is the editor on Roku. She's working on Ninjak. That's actually the next thing I have to read. I just didn't get to it today. I came home early so I could take care of the pooch and get some stuff done around the house before we did this. So first thing in my queue tomorrow is reading a big piece of what's coming for Ninjak. And I can't talk about it yet, but I know who it is, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be pure Ninjak fun. So it's going to have all those elements of that spy world. It's going to have all those elements of the espionage stuff that I love, but it's also going to be some Mission Impossible balls to the wall action.
So with talking about a lot of these upcoming books, and we've been talking about KI6, we've all been huge fans of the book, and we've all liked what B. Claymore brought to that title.
Yeah.
Are we going to see more B. Claymore at Valiant?
It's always a possibility. We got to see what his schedule's like and what the right project is. But B. Claymore is great to work with. He's a super talented writer. I thought Killers came together great. It was unexpected, kind of. Really, it was one of those things where we had a creative meeting and we were like, well, what if we did X, Y, Z, and that's what became AI6. So. We have plans for all of those characters. The whole. That's all. So the whole. You've read the last issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically pitted them. They're ready to be our a whole squad of bad guys in the universe that we can drop in and out wherever we want. So they're going to show up for sure.
Nice.
Okay.
Well,
may not be just.
That's awesome.
And you said B. Claymore, and on that previous catalog, bottom left says Savage.
Yep.
Tell me about Savage.
Savage, man.
Savage is coming.
Savage.
Savage is coming, and there's actually more than one Savage-related thing in the works.
Good news here.
That's cool to hear.
You heard that here, guys.
That's definitely cool to hear. Yeah.
You heard that here.
Multiple Savage projects.
Well, Savage-related, we'll put it that way. But yeah, there's a Savage title. I actually read. It's been a very busy week. This is what happens after holidays. I read Savage #1 today. And it is epic. So,
I mean, we're going to hold you to that. We want it.
Yeah, I want it too. It's slated for summer.
Awesome.
Awesome. And then we're also seeing a teaser
awesome.
and a trailer for Shadow Man, and especially on that that basically splash page. What do we know? What can we hear about Shadow Man?
It's dark. It's real dark.
Rightfully so.
It's we haven't announced the team yet, and I don't want to. I mean, you've got some art there. If you can figure out who the art is, DM me and we'll talk. I'm so excited for this book. Shadow Man's one of my favorite characters from the old days. The Bob Hall stuff on that book was always some of my favorite work that Valiant did back then. And I like most of what we've done. I thought Andy did a really nice job of rehabilitating the character for us and putting him in a spot for the next writer to pick up and run with. And that's what we're doing. So
Nice.
but it's No, I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to get yelled at tomorrow by Heather.
Oh, so we know Heather's editing it, so that's okay.
She put together an incredible book. So.
Good.
Yeah. So we're hearing about so many things, and it sounds like there's even more to come. I mean, do you think that we're going to see multiple number ones in the same month as we get into 2020 with all these new projects coming, or is it just going to be one number one a month at most?
The plan right now is one per month. Now, could that change? There's a bunch of stuff that could happen that we can do that. But we know we know the retailers' bandwidth. We know where we sit, in their budgeting. And we want to make sure that we're doing every single thing we can do to make sure they have every single tool they need to sell our books. One of the highlights of what I get to do, when I'm on the road is sit and talk with retailers. I was at my local shop on Saturday. I go to Anyone Comics here in Brooklyn, and I was talking with Demetrius, just about how the store was doing, and how Valiant was doing, but I was also like, how is this doing? How is this doing? How is this company doing? What's working? What's not working? We do that. When I was in Baltimore, I took a big group, some guys out for dinner, and we just had it's just talking with them and getting information, finding out what works and what doesn't work. And I mean that in a what's working from our stuff, but also what's working for other people and what's not working.
Awesome. And
do you think it will work for you guys?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering if you thought that there was any chance of the line expanding with all this new stuff coming out to closer to.
Same answer. It's when the time is right. We've got the bandwidth internally to do it, but it's got to make sense for everybody.
Awesome. One of the other trailers we saw is something, I'm trying to wait till it pops up. It's about an officer. We all know you've done a lot of homicides. Yes.
Who's you're cutting out real bad.
Officer Fletcher. The little teaser about Officer Fletcher. What do we know about that teaser? That's the one that everybody's got everybody stumped right now.
Good.
It's got everybody stumped, and I believe it's Something to Be Dead at 21 or The Final Witness.
One of those two is the right answer.
Okay, one of those two. later 2020?
No.
No. Okay.
Earlier 2020. We'll be talking about it a lot very soon.
Awesome. There's a lot of excitement coming out right now. I mean, lots of stuff coming. Rye number 2 hits the shelves next week. The closeout of Dr. Mirage number 5 is next week. I think we just hit Psylords, and one of the questions there is Psylords. It's not solicited for that month. So what is that? Just a month that's taking off, or are we done with Psylords at that time?
Issue 8 is the last issue for now.
Okay.
There's certainly more story to be told when the time is right. But yeah, issue 8's the last one right now.
Okay.
And it's we're getting to a big epic point in the story that makes a nice cliffhanger that will lead to a lot of stuff in the future. Fred and Renato have done. I can't speak to how much I've appreciated the hard work they've done on that book. And I think it's fun. It's building us a cosmic big bad portion, or big bad character, as it were. I can't wait to play with as we get into the future.
Nice. Well, and what does that do? I know the pre-order was initially at 12 issues. What is that going to do with that pre-order then?
It'll be 8 issues. The nice thing about the pre-order editions is there's nobody spends anything up front. Okay. So yeah. There's no loss for anybody on either end. It's just it was more of almost like a clerical thing on that point, but it was also we got to a spot. It was a good time to end it, looking at the publishing plan for next year.
Okay. Thank you for that.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Damn.
Stuff I can't talk about, but like I got a list. We've got a list of all the stuff you guys have already asked and the things that are coming in next year that you don't know about. I've actually got like almost another year's worth of books in the works.
So speaking on that, then I have a question. I know like earlier this year we had Incursion. Which, that ended on a bit of a cliffhanger with Tama the Geomancer. When do we see the follow-up to that story? Do we see something in 2020 that continues that?
Hopefully with Alex writing.
I'd love to get to have something with Alex. We'll see when the time is right. There's some really fun seeds in Incursion for us to play with down the road. Scintilla's out there doing crazy things. She doesn't even really know what she's doing. So we'll see. I can't say specifically when we're going to see some of that. The Incursion was a really, really, in my mind, a really fun, really good Eternal Warrior story. So that's a thing that we're going to definitely see more of in 2020 and 2021. Is Eternal Warrior. So.
Nice.
Awesome.
We're full.
I definitely need more Golad personally. I love him. And Incursion was a great story, so I definitely hope that we see.
Right.
I'm glad to hear that. I really enjoyed it. I thought Alex and Andy and Doug did an incredible job.
Agreed. That's some of my favorite interiors from Doug, I thought. I think that's one of the things that he's done.
Yeah, same.
What about Faith? I mean, are we going to just expect to see her in the Harbinger book? Do we see any possibility of a Faith solo title again? I think that's something that a lot of fans really enjoy.
So Faith main focus is getting Harbinger up and Faith and figuring out where she fits in that. But as far as the character on her own, the YA novel is really our big push with the character to hope open some new doors. And then from there, we've been having some conversations internally about maybe a one shot or an annual kind of thing to tie in when the novel comes out. We need to sit down and we have to that exactly internally. But Faith's one of our breakout characters. Definitely want to see her back on the board, either on her own or in a team in a team situation. But the big push is the novel. Because that's a whole new genre for us. It's a whole new market for us, and Julian Murphy's an incredible writer, and she brings in. I'm just excited for those people to discover the Valiant universe.
Yeah. And from the synopsis of that YA book, it doesn't sound like it's in continuity. Is that correct, or am I reading that synopsis?
Nope, it's out of continuity, but it's the same heart and soul of the character that we know and love. Okay. Including, there's some surprise guest stars in there that we haven't talked about, but I think people are gonna. It's gonna be a good book for love YA novels, and it's gonna be a fun book for Valiant fans.
Nice.
I've read it. I loved it. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so the development process, the creative process on that has been very collaborative between us and Julie and her team and the folks at Balzer and Bray and the agency that we work with. So it's been a lot of fun, and we've got a few other things in that market in the works.
Awesome. So spreading more, getting the YA. Or is there going to be any more like you mentioned Dr. Tomorrow kind of being specific towards the youth? Do you see that happening with anything else down the road, or something that's a little more specific and drawn towards them?
For sure. We've got a few things in the works. And all without, they're all still very much a Valiant book. One of the things I think that makes a Valiant book is our books at our core are really about, they're about everyday people in extreme circumstances and pushed to their limit. But our books are also very much about family, either making your own or finding your own family or reclaiming your family. Josh Dysart's Harbinger is about family. And so that's a within a lot of our books in the universe. EXO is very much about, especially Rob's EXO is about family. So
Lemire's Bloodshot was all about family.
Exactly. So that's a big piece of our universe, and these books, even if they're not, even if they don't look or feel immediately like a Valiant book, they're still very much Valiant books.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I mean, something that we kind of harp on a little bit when, people say, oh, this new book is coming out and it's not a thing, but like you had said before, not every book is for every single reader, and you got to have that variety for people to come in.
I think Eric and I have had specific books where I disliked a book for a certain reason and he loved it for the certain reason. And that's fair. That's, that's being human.
Yep. Not every book is for everyone.
And I just, the core thing for me is I want the books to stand on their own and be a good book, even if it's not for you or for me, even, right? Like we've got stuff on the calendar that I'm like, this is not a book I would read. It's good though, I that. So.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the people that it's geared toward are going to enjoy it. A great question in the live chat is about merch. I mean, we've got a Bloodshot movie coming up. I mean, do you think that we're going to see a big push in new types of merchandise? I think we're all excited for the action figure.
Yeah.
Do you know anything else coming in that vein, or as far as ways that we can rock our Valiant merch? And
for sure. We've got a bunch of stuff in the works. As far as the movie merch related, I believe that's more in we're taking advantage of it wherever we can, but a lot of that is actually being handled on the Sony side, I believe, and licensing is not a spot that I'm the most involved in, but yeah, we've got I was looking at character models for a thing that I can't talk about yesterday. We've got some other figure type stuff coming. We got a whole case of mugs today that are samples that we're looking at. We got a bunch of other stuff, prints and a bunch of t-shirts and stuff. Have you guys seen the Hot Topic t-shirts?
Yes.
Oh,
someone here has one.
Yeah. That's a touchy subject for Hoosier.
I don't own one yet, but they're doing well from what we were hearing. So.
I give the Hot Topics trying to make it right.
At least that's good. Yeah. No, and that's awesome though to have a store like Hot Topic that's pushing the character, because I mean,
big time. It's in every mall.
I don't shop at Hot Topic, but I don't shop there, but a lot of people do.
Yep. Yeah, so those are places that once the movie hits, it'll open a ton of doors for us.
That's awesome.
But
exciting.
Just the McFarlane figure and having Todd come to the booth at New York and do a 20-minute interview about the figure was huge. That was so cool.
Yeah, Todd McFarlane at the Valiant booth talking about Valiant stuff. That's pretty awesome.
Right? Yeah. It's amazing. The action figure is incredible.
One of the things I'm hoping for is I'm going to Emerald City Comic Con, home con. Josh is going to be there as well. I know there's a couple of us. And we're really hoping, since it's the first big con after the movie, that we can get Bob Layton and Kevin Van Hook there. So we're kind of crossing our fingers. If you have any pool, we want that.
That's going to be up to them with their schedules. They're both super busy. Bob's working on movies now. Kevin's still working on movies. He's always been doing that. But we'll see.
And then I think that's it. I mean, guys, next week we got Dr. Mirage number 5, Rye number 2, Psylords number 7. Is that out today? Is that 7? That's out today?
That's out today.
Yeah.
So go pick up your Valiant books. And, definitely. We appreciate you for jumping on, Robert.
Of course, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
very,
thank you.
very
I know it's
much.
late where you're at, so thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. This is fun. Thanks for inviting me. Let's do it again. Maybe next time. Maybe we're on around Emerald City. We can do it again. We're in person.
Let's do it. We'll plan it.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Sounds awesome. Thanks so much for allowing us to ask questions, even if you can't answer every single one, and giving us the opportunity to pick your brain a little bit about what the Valiant universe is.
I could do this not necessarily all night, but I could do this all the time.
And thanks, Greg Katzman, for getting this set up too. So thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Big thanks to Greg.
Greg's awesome.
Yeah, Greg rules. Greg's awesome. And thank you everybody that has joined us. I know Valiant did a great job of
the chat feed, but thank you everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean there's quite a few people who have been really active, and that's been awesome. thank you to Valiant for, whoever the social media team for, blasting out that we're doing this
Emily
episode.
rocks.
And
He's the best.
yeah, absolutely. And thanks everybody for hanging out. We've had the regulars coming and hanging out and chatting with us, and some new faces as well. Definitely appreciate everybody who watches and listens and supports us, and of course supports Valiant, because that's what we're all here for. We will be back and finally getting back on reviewing books again next week, so that'll be cool to actually. We got a backlog now, so that'll be fun to kind of slam through all those. Uh, but yeah, thanks again, everybody, for watching, for listening. Signing off, I'm Eric Baumgard.
I'm Josh Rathbun.
I'm Hoosier. And that's Robert down there.
And that's Robert Meyers.
Good night, guys.
Yeah.
He's Valiant, just like you.